Chosen one, listen carefully, because this message may explain a feeling you've had recently, but couldn't fully understand. Sometimes a new person enters our lives, and everything seems normal on the surface. They appear friendly, supportive, even trustworthy. Conversations flow easily, the connection feels natural, and there seems to be no obvious reason for concern. But deep inside, something feels slightly unsettled. A quiet hesitation that you can't quite explain. Many people ignore that feeling. They assume it's just overthinking or unnecessary suspicion. After all, nobody wants to believe that someone who seems kind could carry hidden intentions. But what if that quiet feeling is not random? What if it's actually a form of spiritual awareness? A subtle warning placed in your heart before the situation fully reveals itself. You see, when someone is walking in growth, purpose, or spiritual clarity, not every connection that appears in their life is meant to remain there. Some people arrive to support you, encourage you, and grow alongside you. But others appear for very different reasons. Sometimes they enter quietly, gaining trust little by little, slowly becoming part of your daily world before you even realize something is off. And that's where many chosen ones become vulnerable. Because the warning rarely comes through something dramatic. It often appears through subtle signals, a strange discomfort in your spirit, an unusual speed in the relationship, or a quiet shift in your energy whenever that person is around. These signs are easy to dismiss if you don't know what to look for. In this message, we're going to explore the signals that God sometimes places in front of a chosen one when someone enters their life with intentions that may not be fully honest. You'll learn how to recognize the early warnings many people ignore, why certain encounters happen during seasons of growth, and how discernment can protect your peace before small problems grow into larger ones. Because once a chosen one begins to understand these signs, something powerful happens. Confusion fades. Awareness grows stronger, and situations that once felt mysterious suddenly start making sense. And by the end of this message, you may realize something important. That uneasy feeling you've been carrying might not be fear at all. It might be a warning meant to protect you. Chosen ones often expect warnings to come through obvious situations, dramatic betrayals, clear conflicts, or visible signs that someone cannot be trusted. But in reality, the first warning almost never looks like that. Instead, it usually begins with something much quieter, a subtle feeling, a strange discomfort that appears without explanation. It's that small voice in the back of your mind telling you to pay attention, even when everything on the surface seems perfectly fine. Many people ignore this inner signal because they cannot logically explain it. After all, the person who recently entered their life might appear kind, friendly, and supportive. On the outside, nothing seems wrong, but something inside refuses to fully relax. A chosen one may notice that conversations feel slightly forced, or that trust does not come as naturally as it normally would. It's not fear exactly. It's more like a quiet alert inside the soul saying, "Watch carefully." A mentor once shared a story about a moment when he ignored this feeling. Someone new had entered his life and quickly seemed helpful and supportive. The conversations were interesting, the energy seemed positive, and there was no obvious reason to doubt the connection. Yet from the very beginning, he felt a strange hesitation inside. Instead of listening to that instinct, he pushed the feeling aside, telling himself he was simply overthinking things. Months later, he realized that the small discomfort he felt in the beginning had been the most honest signal he received. The situation eventually revealed hidden motives that he had completely overlooked. Looking back, he said the warning had been there from the start, quiet, subtle, but clear. The problem wasn't that the signal was missing. The problem was that he chose to ignore it. Think of that inner warning like a smoke alarm inside a house. The alarm doesn't wait until the entire building is on fire. It activates when the first signs of smoke appear, often before the flames are even visible. That early alert is meant to protect you before the situation becomes dangerous. In the same way, the inner awareness many chosen ones experience often appears long before the real problem becomes visible. This is why spiritual discernment is so important. When someone carries purpose, their awareness tends to be sharper than they realize. They may sense subtle changes in energy, tone, or intention that others completely overlook. Unfortunately, many people have been taught to ignore those signals in order to appear polite, trusting, or open-minded. But discernment is not the same as paranoia. A chosen one does not need to accuse, confront, or judge someone immediately. Sometimes the wisest response is simply paying attention, observing quietly, allowing time to reveal whether that inner signal was simply caution, or the beginning of something that deserves deeper attention. And interestingly, when someone enters your life with intentions that are not fully honest, the next sign often appears very quickly, because the same person who triggered that quiet inner alert will often begin doing something else that feels surprisingly intense. They try to become part of your life much faster than normal. Another sign that often appears when someone new enters the life of a chosen one is the speed at which that person tries to build closeness. At first it may feel flattering. After all, everyone appreciates feeling valued and understood. Someone shows interest in your story, asks questions about your life, and seems eager to spend time with you. On the surface, it can look like a genuine connection forming quickly. But when you slow down and observe carefully, something about the pace begins to feel unusual. Healthy relationships, whether friendships, partnerships, or collaborations, normally grow step by step. Trust is built gradually. People reveal pieces of their lives little by little as comfort develops naturally. But sometimes a person enters your life and immediately begins acting as if they have known you for years. They want to know everything about you right away, your plans, your dreams, your struggles, even your personal doubts. For a chosen one, this rapid closeness can sometimes be a subtle warning rather than a blessing. A man once shared an experience where someone new entered his life during a season of growth. The individual appeared incredibly supportive from the very beginning. They complimented his ideas, showed great interest in his goals, and constantly offered to help with whatever he was doing. At first it seemed like a rare kind of connection, someone who understood his vision and wanted to support it. But something about the intensity felt unusual. Within a very short time, the person had learned nearly every detail about his plans. Later, he realized that the speed of the relationship had prevented him from noticing certain things. The person wasn't simply curious about his life. They were gathering information, forming opinions, and slowly positioning themselves in ways that gave them influence over situations that mattered to him. Looking back, he recognized that the closeness had been created so quickly that there was no time to observe whether trust had truly been earned. Think of it like someone trying to enter your home. Normally you invite a guest inside gradually. Maybe they start in the living room. Over time, as trust builds, they become more comfortable in your space. But imagine someone arriving at your door and immediately trying to walk through every room of your house before you even have time to understand who they are. That level of urgency would naturally feel uncomfortable. The same principle applies to relationships. For many chosen ones, the lesson here is not to become suspicious of everyone new who enters their life. Instead, it's about respecting the natural pace that trust requires. When someone tries to accelerate that process too quickly, asking deeply personal questions, inserting themselves into your daily routine, or trying to become emotionally significant almost immediately, it's wise to slow things down. One of the most powerful forms of discernment is simply allowing time to reveal truth. When you take things slowly, intentions become clearer. People who are genuine remain patient and consistent. But individuals with hidden motives often become restless when they cannot move as quickly as they hoped. A wise mentor once said something interesting: time protects you from many mistakes. When you give relationships enough time to develop naturally, you create space to observe character, patterns, and intentions. And often that patience reveals things that would have been completely invisible in the beginning. But speed is not the only sign to watch carefully. Because once someone gains a certain level of access to your life, another subtle shift sometimes begins to appear. Instead of simply being present in your world, they start doing something far more influential. They begin trying to shape the decisions you make. After someone gains quick access to your life, another subtle shift often begins to appear. At first it may seem harmless, even helpful. The person starts offering advice about your plans, sharing opinions about your choices, and suggesting different ways you could approach things. In the beginning, this can feel like support. After all, people who care about us often want to help. But for a chosen one, there is an important difference between someone offering guidance and someone quietly trying to redirect your path. This shift rarely happens all at once. It begins slowly, almost invisibly. A small comment here, a gentle suggestion there. The person may question one of your plans, then another. Sometimes they frame their words as concern. I'm just trying to help you avoid mistakes. Other times they present their ideas as better alternatives. Over time, if you are not paying attention, their voice starts appearing more frequently in the decisions you make. A man once shared how this happened during a very important season in his life. He had been working toward a goal for several years, building momentum slowly but steadily. Then someone new entered his circle. The person seemed wise, confident, and supportive. At first their advice sounded thoughtful, but gradually the conversations began shifting his perspective. Small doubts started appearing where certainty once existed. The direction that once felt clear began feeling uncertain. It took time for him to realize what was happening. The person wasn't forcing decisions directly. Instead, they were planting suggestions, ideas that slowly reshaped the way he looked at his own path. The influence was subtle enough that he didn't immediately notice the shift. But one day he stepped back and realized something surprising. Many of the decisions he had recently made no longer aligned with what he originally believed. Think of it like steering a ship across the ocean. A small change in direction may not feel significant at first. The movement is so slight that no one notices immediately. But after many miles, that tiny shift in the wheel can lead the ship to a completely different destination. The same thing can happen when someone slowly begins influencing your decisions. For many chosen ones, this becomes an important lesson in protecting their inner compass. Advice can be valuable, but it should never replace your own discernment. When someone constantly questions your vision, pushes you toward choices that don't align with your beliefs, or subtly makes you doubt the direction that once felt right, it may be time to step back and observe carefully. A wise mentor once said something simple but powerful: listen to advice, but never surrender your direction. In other words, wisdom comes from considering different perspectives while still staying connected to the convictions that guide your life. The interesting thing is that when someone begins trying to influence your path, another sign often appears at the same time, one that many people fail to notice until much later. Because sometimes the biggest change isn't in your decisions, it's in how you feel after spending time around that person. One of the most overlooked signals a chosen one can experience is not something visible or dramatic, it's something felt. Sometimes a person may not say anything openly negative. They may not criticize you directly, argue with you, or challenge your decisions in obvious ways. But after spending time with them, you notice something unusual. Your energy feels different, heavier, drained, as if something invisible has been quietly pulling from your emotional strength. This effect can be confusing because the conversations themselves may appear normal. You might talk about everyday things, work, plans, life situations, yet somehow, when the interaction ends, you feel mentally exhausted. The enthusiasm you had earlier in the day suddenly fades. Your focus weakens. Even your motivation begins to drop slightly. A chosen one often senses this shift but struggles to explain it logically. A mentor once described a season of his life when this happened repeatedly with a particular person. The individual never openly attacked him or criticized his goals. In fact, they often appeared friendly and supportive. But every time they spoke, the conversation slowly drifted toward problems, doubts, and negative possibilities. What began as casual dialogue would gradually become heavy discussions about failure, risk, or things that could go wrong. After each interaction, he noticed the same pattern. The clarity he once had about his direction felt slightly weaker. At first, he thought he was simply tired or overthinking things. But the pattern continued. Whenever he spent time away from that person, his energy returned. His ideas felt sharp again. His motivation came back naturally. Eventually he realized that the problem wasn't just the conversations, it was the emotional atmosphere those interactions created. Think of your energy like the battery in your phone. Even when you're not actively using certain apps, some of them run quietly in the background, slowly draining power. You may not notice it immediately, but after a while the battery drops faster than expected. Some relationships work the same way. They don't explode into conflict or drama. Instead, they operate quietly in the background of your life, gradually consuming emotional energy. For many chosen ones, this becomes an important moment of awareness. Not every person who enters your life will strengthen your spirit. Some individuals unintentionally or sometimes intentionally bring an emotional atmosphere that slowly weakens your clarity and focus. Recognizing this pattern is not about judging others harshly. It's about understanding how certain environments affect your inner state. One powerful question many mentors recommend asking yourself after interactions is very simple. How do I feel after spending time with this person? Do you feel more encouraged, peaceful, and focused? Or do you feel heavier, more doubtful, and mentally drained? That answer often reveals far more than the conversation itself. And interestingly, when someone's presence begins affecting your energy in this way, another sign often appears shortly after. Because sometimes the people closest to you, friends or family who observe things from the outside, begin noticing something that you may still be trying to understand. Sometimes the warning does not come only from within. It begins appearing through the eyes of people who genuinely care about you. Friends, family members, or even someone who knows you well may start noticing subtle changes long before you fully recognize them yourself. They observe the new person in your life, the conversations you've been having, or the way your energy seems slightly different after certain interactions, and quietly they begin to feel concerned. For a chosen one, this moment can be uncomfortable. When someone close raises a question about a person you recently met, the first instinct is often to defend the relationship. After all, nobody enjoys feeling like their judgment might be questioned. You might respond with something like, "You're probably misunderstanding them," or "They've been nothing but kind to me." In many cases, those responses come from a good place, the desire to believe the best about people. But sometimes the perspective of others reveals things that are difficult to see from the inside. When you are directly involved in a new relationship or connection, emotions and excitement can cloud certain details. People observing from the outside, however, often notice patterns more clearly. They may see shifts in behavior, tone, or intentions that you haven't had enough distance to fully recognize yet. A man once shared how this happened during a particular season of his life. Someone new had entered his circle, and at first the connection seemed promising. The conversations were interesting, the support appeared genuine, and everything seemed perfectly normal. But after a while, a close friend asked him a simple question. "Have you noticed how your mood changes after spending time with them?" That single observation stopped him in his tracks. He hadn't noticed it consciously before, but once the question was asked, the pattern became impossible to ignore. Each time he interacted with that person, he felt slightly more drained, more uncertain about things that once felt clear. His friend had simply observed what he had been too close to see. Think of it like someone standing on a hill watching the horizon. From that higher perspective, they might see dark storm clouds forming far away while you, standing on the ground, still see only clear skies. Their warning doesn't mean the storm has arrived yet. It simply means they can see signs forming earlier than you can. For many chosen ones, the key lesson here is learning to listen carefully when trusted voices express concern. Not every warning will be correct, of course, but when someone who genuinely cares about your well-being notices patterns and gently brings them to your attention, it can be wise to pause and reflect. This doesn't mean immediately rejecting someone who recently entered your life. Instead, it means stepping back for a moment and observing with fresh awareness. Sometimes those outside perspectives become the missing piece that helps you see a situation more clearly. And when clarity begins to grow, another important realization often follows. Because not every difficult encounter or uncomfortable relationship appears purely to harm you. Sometimes these experiences serve a completely different purpose, one that prepares you for something much greater ahead. At this point, many chosen ones begin asking a deeper question. Why do these encounters happen at all? Why does someone enter your life only to create confusion, tension, or difficult lessons? At first it can feel frustrating, almost unfair. After all, when someone is trying to grow, improve their life, and move closer to their purpose, the last thing they expect is a connection that brings complications instead of peace. But over time, many chosen ones discover something surprising. Not every difficult encounter appears simply to harm you. Sometimes these experiences arrive as part of your preparation. They teach discernment, strengthen your boundaries, help you understand the difference between genuine support and hidden intentions. Without those lessons, it would be much harder to recognize who truly deserves space in your life later on. A mentor once explained this idea using a simple example. Imagine someone preparing for an important journey across the ocean. Before they set sail, they must learn how to read the wind, recognize dangerous currents, and navigate unexpected storms. If they never faced those smaller challenges during training, the real voyage could become extremely dangerous. In the same way, certain encounters in life train a chosen one to recognize patterns before they become serious problems. One man once reflected on a relationship that caused him significant stress during an earlier stage of his life. At the time, he believed the situation had simply been a mistake, a person he trusted who later revealed a completely different character. But years later, he realized that experience had given him something incredibly valuable: discernment. After going through that situation, he became far better at recognizing subtle warning signs in people. Because of that lesson, he avoided several situations later in life that could have created much larger problems. In other words, what once looked like a negative encounter ended up becoming a protective experience that shaped his judgment for years to come. Think of it like a test that prepares you for something greater. Tests are rarely comfortable while you're going through them. They challenge your patience, your awareness, and your emotional control. But once the lesson is understood, you carry that knowledge forward. And suddenly the same type of situation that once confused you becomes much easier to navigate. For many chosen ones, these experiences also reveal something important about personal boundaries. When you encounter someone who pushes too quickly into your life, influences your decisions, or drains your energy, you begin understanding the importance of protecting your space. You learn that kindness does not require unlimited access to your time, your thoughts, or your personal journey. A wise mentor once said something that many people never forget. Every person who enters your life teaches you something, either how to grow, or how to recognize what does not belong in your path. Both lessons are valuable. Both shape the clarity that a chosen one needs in order to move forward wisely. And once you finally recognize the signs, understand the patterns, and learn the lessons those encounters bring, a very important question appears. What should you actually do when you realize that someone in your life may not have the intentions you first believed? When a chosen one finally begins to recognize these signs, the inner warning, the fast approach, the influence over decisions, the draining energy, and even the quiet concerns from people around them, the most important question becomes very practical. What should you actually do about it? Because awareness is powerful, but knowing how to respond with wisdom is what truly protects your peace and your future. The first step is surprisingly simple. Slow down and observe. When something about a person begins to feel uncertain, the worst reaction is often rushing into confrontation or emotional decisions. Instead, wise chosen ones take a step back internally. They begin paying attention to patterns. How does this person behave over time? Do their words consistently match their actions? Do interactions leave you feeling stronger and clearer, or more confused and drained? One man once shared that the greatest protection he learned in life was patience. Instead of reacting quickly whenever he sensed something unusual, he began allowing time to reveal the truth. And interestingly, he noticed something powerful. People eventually reveal their real intentions on their own. Some individuals who initially appeared supportive slowly expose patterns of manipulation, jealousy, or hidden agendas simply through their repeated behavior. Another important step is protecting the amount of information you share about your life. Many chosen ones naturally have open and generous personalities. They enjoy sharing ideas, dreams, and plans with people around them. But not everyone who listens to those dreams is meant to carry that knowledge. When someone new enters your life, it can be wise to reveal things gradually rather than all at once. Think of your life like a house with many rooms. Some guests may be welcome in the living room where conversations remain light and friendly. Access to the deeper rooms, the spaces that hold your fears, goals, and personal struggles, should only be given to people who have proven their trust over time. A chosen one protects those deeper spaces carefully. Another key response is maintaining clear boundaries. Boundaries are not about pushing people away or treating others harshly. Are about understanding that your time, your energy, and your emotional space are valuable. When someone repeatedly crosses those boundaries, asking for too much access, influencing your decisions, or bringing negativity into your life, stepping back calmly can often restore the balance that was being disturbed. A mentor once explained boundaries in a very simple way. He said they work like doors. A door doesn't exist to keep everyone out forever. It simply gives you the power to decide who enters and when. When a chosen one learns to control that door, life becomes much more peaceful. And something interesting often happens when you quietly create that distance. People who genuinely care about you will respect your boundaries. They will continue showing patience, consistency, and understanding. But individuals who entered your life with hidden motives often react very differently. When they realize they cannot control your access, influence your decisions, or drain your energy as easily as before, their true character begins to reveal itself. That moment of clarity is incredibly powerful, because it reminds you of something important. You don't need to fight every battle, expose every intention, or confront every person directly. Sometimes the greatest protection comes from simply recognizing the signs early and adjusting your distance accordingly. And once a chosen one learns that level of discernment, they begin moving through life with a completely different kind of awareness, one that protects their peace, strengthens their purpose, and keeps them aligned with the path that was meant for them all along. Now take a moment and think about everything we discussed. The inner warning feeling, the person who enters your life too quickly, the subtle attempts to influence your decisions, the quiet drain on your energy, and even the concerns that other people around you might begin to notice. None of these signs appear randomly. For a chosen one, these moments often arrive as opportunities to develop something extremely valuable: discernment. Many people go through life ignoring these signals because they want to believe the best about everyone. And while kindness and trust are beautiful qualities, wisdom requires balance. Learning to recognize when something feels off is not paranoia, it is protection. It is the ability to guard your peace, your purpose, and the direction God is leading you toward. The truth is that not every person who enters your life is meant to stay there. Some people appear to teach you something important: how to trust your instincts, how to set boundaries, and how to protect your energy. Once a chosen one learns those lessons, their awareness becomes stronger. They begin moving through life with a new kind of clarity, noticing patterns earlier and avoiding situations that once created confusion. So let me ask you something honestly. Have you recently felt that strange inner signal about someone in your life? A quiet feeling that something might not be completely right? A moment where your spirit told you to pay attention, even though nothing obvious had happened yet? If this message spoke to you, I want you to do something simple. Go to the comments and type, "I trust God's warning." That phrase is more than just words. It's a declaration that you're choosing awareness, discernment, and wisdom moving forward. And if this message helped you see things more clearly, make sure you subscribe to the channel and activate the notifications, because more messages are coming that will help every chosen one grow in awareness, strengthen their purpose, and navigate life with greater clarity. Also, don't leave yet. The video appearing on your screen right now will reveal another powerful sign that someone may secretly be working against your peace, and how a chosen one can recognize it before it causes damage. Stay aware, stay grounded, and keep walking the path that was meant for you.